Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
I'm Colin.
I'm Craig Four.
I'm Matt.
And this is where we talk all things Star Wars. And we have a very special guest on today's podcast. He is someone whose career I've been following with great interest. None other than Bob Wills, who is the CEO of PMX Events. And if you watched, and we all know you watched the celebration coverage of Ewan McGregor, and when he came out on stage, I was lucky enough to be there in person.
Yeah.
He announced two other places this year he was going to attend. One was Edinburgh in the UK, and the only other place he announced was San Antonio. And Mr. Bob Wills is here, who is responsible for that choice. And Bob, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Good choice.
Well played. Good afternoon, guys. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
Well, you might not be saying that for long.
Well, hey, listen, I've been working in the media business for 40 years. You know, what goes around comes around.
Well, we're glad you're with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, yeah, like I said, there's going to be a Comic-Con that's happening. Specifically, it is the Thomas J. Henry car show, superhero car show, and Comic-Con that's happening in my neck of the woods in South Texas in the San Antonio area.
Two shows for the price of one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Specifically at the Freeman Coliseum and the Freeman Coliseum Expo. So, yeah, without further ado, let's talk about this and talk about Ewan McGregor. How did you land such a huge talent?
And can I get his phone number?
Confidentiality. Well, we scored him last year, and we got a lot of shows were not looking like they were going to start up. Of course, we announced that we were going to start up, and then our good friend Omicron came along, and it caused us to shut down because the studios don't want their key talent, because he was filming Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. And if he gets sick or he has to go down for 10 days for protocol, there's 150 people who are going to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs, eating up hotel beds and meals and, the per diems and you name it. So, it got canceled. And I have to tell you, I've had other guests cancel in a previous year. And even though it says in the contract that you have the right to get that they come back and they'll come back in the next year, they don't. There's always a reason they're filming or shooting, and you kind of don't have, choice in the matter. But, Ewan, first class individual, because there were some other shows that were going after him in the state of Texas, which I'll remain nameless. And we were offered him a bigger contract, because he's going to be at our show. He's going to be Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And so we're pretty excited to have him. And the fact that we were to get Rupert Friend, who is the Grand Inquisitor in the new series, trying to hunt him down. Yeah. That's fabulous. We have him coming into the show. And but the whole thing with Ewan is class act. He said it. He told his agents and managers, I want to go to San Antonio. So that's what we're so happy to have.
It's amazing. I mean, this is like going to be his second appearance ever, right? I mean,
yeah.
I've never heard of him going to anything and signing before a celebration just recently.
Yeah, he was originally so Stephen Seamus, formerly the CEO. Well, they shut down because of Omicron. Ace Comic-Con, and then he started up and made Wizard World famous years ago. All these shows got canceled, and they were in early March of 2020, just when COVID-19 just exploded. They were going to have that big show in Boston, and he was going to be there. And now Stephen is
okay. Yeah, that was Boston. I was thinking it was up north somewhere.
Yeah, it was scheduled to be in Boston, and but Stephen is on our our talent procurement team, and he's helping us, and he brought him here. And there's only a few shows in America that really have the demonstrated deep pockets. It's easy for Disney to do Star Wars Celebration, San Diego, and New York, but you want to bring in Obi-Wan, you want to bring in a Chris Evans, a Captain America. These guys are very expensive, and people are not sure they want to take that risk. But we have, go back and look at our 2019 show. It was unbelievable. We had a whole bunch of the top cast members from Aquaman. We had Jeremy Renner. We had Anthony Mackie. We had Benedict Wong. Right at 5 weeks after Endgame, Avengers Endgame went on. So there's no coward in this guy. And even though we had lost some money building our brand, heck, our first show was originally 4 months in the making, and then a big lawsuit went on between San Diego and Salt Lake City over the name Comic-Con. If you heard that in the news,
I remember that. And
so it kind of put a shock through the Comic-Con industry about, can we call ourselves a Comic-Con? Mm-hmm. And so we kind of paused back and we changed our name from Celebrity Comic-Con to Celebrity Fan Fest. And we announced the show within 2 months, and nobody believed we were bringing in Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, right?
Yeah. So this is something I was thinking about. If there was one dream guest that you could have, that and maybe you've had that dream guest already, who would that dream guest be?
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
I'm going to say Harrison Ford, because
I was just thinking that. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Harrison Ford
right.
would be mine. Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay. Because it would be a tie.
Okay.
I'd want Harrison Ford or Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is the biggest, what they call unicorn in the industry. Mm-hmm. He started doing some signings earlier this year, but I hope there's a future with Robert Downey Jr.
That'd be great.
And I know that Kevin Feige is talking. He was kind of joking, but he was half serious about potentially doing a Avengers Con, like down the road. And if that happens, then that might open up the possibility of, the actors who usually don't do conventions. They're like, well, this was fun. I might want to open my mind to other things. And your Fan Fest might be something that Robert Downey Jr. might be like, hey, it's done great in the past. That's probably something that I want to do.
Yeah, it just depends on what the deal points are. But I would bet our friend Stephen Seamus would be probably the person that would have the inside track on that, because he and Kevin Feige grew up together, and Kevin Feige. Then their families had a comic book shop, I believe, in northern New Jersey.
And who is Stephen Seamus again to you?
He is managing he brought in, our major talent. Okay. There's stuff that I work the contracts with, and there's stuff that he does the contracts. But he used to be he started Ace Comic-Con, and he was the CEO and for, I don't know, 10, 12 years with Wizard World, when Wizard World was the big Comic-Con provider across the country. And then Informa, that owns Dallas, bought Wizard World, and they're converting all those cities over to, like Dallas Fan Expo, New Orleans Fan Expo, Denver Fan Expo. So it's basically a lot of them are turning these Comic-Cons into McDonald's franchises. You'll see the Clerks franchise or the Hobbits will be at every one of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's smart because they get to monopolize scale.
Yeah.
That's some Happy Meal.
Maybe Cobra Kai involved with that too.
in the future, you know, the guys are up. They're up there in Dallas. They were at Houston last year. You know, what other people believe are headliners, I don't.
Yeah.
If they've been 6, 8, 10 places in the last 2 years, you know, different shows, what makes you unique? And as I was telling before we came on the air, we've got people coming from 41 states and 3 countries. And, you know, if you're trying to be, you can be a local show or you can be a regional show. And we've opted to the regional show because the metrics work out better and allows you to bring in the scale and the revenue to afford to bring in the bigger talent.
Yeah, that's super interesting that you brought that up about Seamus and Feige. I'm a huge Kevin Feige fan, and I've tried to read and watch everything he's associated with, and I had no idea that I didn't even know that his family had a comic book shop. That's super interesting.
You know, so I'm gonna, you know, they say, you know, keep your dirty laundry hidden. So we had a show in June. Excuse me. And then we did a fall show in October called Preview Con, and people came to that, and then they got to supposed to be able to come to the big show of June 2020. And I got called up, and they said, Tom Holland has agreed to do 3 shows this fall.
Wow.
And would you like him?
Did you faint when they asked you that?
Duh, I said no because of the price, and I was just wrapping up the current show and you know, financially and trying to get a fix on it. And I knew some of my partners, we would be wondering, why are we leaping off the pier for the biggest talent cost that you'd ever have? And the mistake was that about 20,000 13 to 16-year-old girls, you know, invade your show. I went over to Comic Palooza to see when they had Tom Holland over there in 2018, and I never saw photo lines and autograph lines so long in all my life. I mean, they had thousands of people that were getting in line for him, and so, you know, the good news is he's a big draw. The downside is those 13-year-old girls are not coming back the next year to Ewan McGregor.
Right.
You know, it's a different audience. So the pagination of putting a show together and having, you know, talent from different universes is a challenge.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
And that's something that you guys have to really consider. Whereas as fans, we are just like, we see a name and we're like, oh, wow, I want to go to that. Like, I remember when Ewan was supposed to go to San Antonio last time because David lives there, and I almost flew out, and I just had a feeling because COVID was so rough, and I decided not to last minute, and then sure enough, it had to cancel. But I live in Orlando. I don't usually leave Orlando for a convention, but I was ready to go to San Antonio for a name, you know?
He was a holy grail.
Exactly. He hadn't done anything. So, yeah.
So if we got Robert Downey Jr. or Harrison Ford, you know, you'd be buying a cheap ticket on Southwest Airlines.
Exactly. I'd probably fly anywhere to meet Harrison Ford. Literally.
We do have a Greyhound bus terminal in downtown San Antonio, so you know, Greg.
But if honestly, if somebody said Harrison Ford is in Celebration in London next year, I'll do it. I'll go just to meet Harrison. So yeah, if you can get names like that, people will fly anywhere or go anywhere.
And especially with him making a new Indiana Jones movie, that kind of elevates everything.
That honestly was a huge highlight at Celebration because it was great to have John Williams on there. That was amazing. But then to have John Williams starting to play indie, and then at the end of the song, Harrison Ford just walks out, and we're just like, what's going on? Like, I never thought I would ever see him again on stage, because we only saw him on stage back in 2017 in Orlando, so it was like, that's cool. But he came on stage and we was talking about how that theme played at his last colonoscopy, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. like why on earth are you talking about that? But everyone loved it. So I think that, I love the list that you have now, and not only Obi-Wan, but you just have an amazing lineup, and I think that alone will still bring a bunch of people. And besides those guests, something else that I think is great with the time that's happening right now is we are still technically in the pandemic, but we're also like almost out of it. So now it's like, hey, conventions are back, and when everyone went to Celebration, that was amazing and everything, but that was just Star Wars. So going to a convention like this and celebrating not just Star Wars but multiple franchises, that's what people love. That's why people go to these things, and this just looks incredible, and it looks phenomenal.
The whole COVID situation, in reading a lot of medical overviews on this, COVID's been around over in Asia for 50 years, and there's different streams. And my wife's 90-year-old mother got COVID about 3.5 weeks ago, and when I got it in late June of last year, after already having 2 boosters and all my shots, my 2 shots and my booster, I said, how can I be getting this? And, really the one thing that I tell people is we did not get vaccines. We got therapeutics. If you get a polio vaccine, you can never get polio. That's what happens with vaccines. These are no different than a flu shot. And so it's going to be around for a long time. And we're just starting to get used to it. And as long as now the doctors and everybody knows how to treat this, and the therapeutics are there, we're in a better situation. So life will go on, and we can see this. What did the biggest thing that made me comfortable proceeding was Spider-Man at Christmas. You're talking about it's the 4th biggest movie in history during the COVID, being in the COVID era. Excuse me. So I'm very confident that people have learned to live with it. There's still those that have the fear, and you do see some masks. I've been on some airplanes recently, and you'll see maybe, I think 8-10 people out of the whole plane that are still wearing them. Some of it, you don't know they have immune deficiencies, but to each his own. They all get to have their own beliefs. I always said there's a rule in life. It's your life. You get to live it the way you want. And but I think we have to, as a society, we have to move on. We have to get back to doing the things we love.
Yeah, it was definitely a very hard couple of years. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people got to miss out on things that they really enjoy, like these conventions. I go to MegaCon all the time in Orlando every year. And this is the first time that I couldn't go was, during COVID. And it's kind of sad, you expect that convention every year at that time. And you're like, I can't go, So it's so nice to be able to have something like this back, where you get to be with your friends and do something like that you really get to look forward to.
Yeah, last weekend, my wife and I, we went over to Awesome Con in DC because Stephen is helping, brought them with talent. I met Simu Liu from Shang-Chi, and wonderful guy. Wonderful guy. As soon as I posted that picture of him and I in the backroom signing autograph area, everybody said, jump to conclusion we were bringing him to the show, even though it said up above, no, he's not coming this year. But great show. He sold out over there, did phenomenal. But we saw some other folks, like somebody who's going to be in Dallas coming down here, was over there and had tremendous lines. He's a very busy talent if you think of all the shows he's in.
Yes. Yes. So if I got this right, so Ewan has officially sold out, but you're looking for more dates and times.
No, he's not sold out. There's stuff on.
Okay.
There's still autographs, and we have some more. We have some more autographs and photos that are going to open up. Excuse me, dry throat here.
And as well as Ewan, of course, we have the graphic up here if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. Paul Bettany, who played Dryden Voss in Solo, and of course Rupert Friend, who plays the Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you mentioned earlier Spencer Wilding, who was Vader in the infamous hallway scene in Rogue One. He will be there as well, signing and taking photos. So, yeah, it's a great Star Wars lineup. If you're a huge Star Wars fan, and if you're in the area of San Antonio, you should be there, because I mean, you never know with the world the way it is when they're going to come back. And I mean, like you said, there's so many people flying in from different states. Craig was already flying in last year until Ewan and Hayden canceled for the fan fest you had going. But this year it should be on, and I plan on being there, and I'm a part of the 501st as well. And it's going to be awesome. And I just want to tell you, Bob, on the show, I haven't told you this before, but I've been following you. I've been aware of you for a little while now. And me growing up in South Texas, I've just been waiting for someone like you to get to the forefront here and do this type of show in San Antonio. San Antonio is the 7th biggest city in the United States of America. And it feels like we don't do enough in our area. And you stepping up to the plate and talking the talk and walking the walk, I just have to say that I really appreciate it for what you're doing for our area where I grew up and always kind of dreamed about something like this. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And we're going to expand. By the way, if you haven't seen it on TV here or in newspaper, radio, we opened up a show Friday at the San Antonio Museum of Art. It's called Tony Parker's Heroes and Villains. And we have something like 45 statues from all the different universes. Tony, if you don't know, for those of you who are in Orlando, Tony Parker was the future Hall of Fame San Antonio Spur guard. He won 4 NBA titles, part of the Big Three with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili. Mm-hmm. Manu is going in September in the Hall of Fame. Tim is already in, and we expect Tony will probably go sometime next year.
Yeah, this can very easily turn into a San Antonio Spurs podcast, because that was my very first podcast that I created, was a San Antonio Spurs podcast. And yes, I saw that Tony Parker is going to be there on Sunday.
And boy, he's selling like hotcakes.
I mean, you would imagine
he's
in
going
San
head
Antonio.
and head with Stephen Amell to see who's on the second tier, who's there. But Tony's a great guy, and we started about a year ago. I would go to his house, and he has this big giant property. He's got 20 acres. He's got his own water park on it. I mean, a water park.
Yeah.
And he has a big building with his basketball courts. And then in that building, he has his own Dave & Buster's. He's got about 100 video games. And then he around the basketball court, he had all his statues. He's got Star Wars. He's got
Vader,
Marvel.
yes, Solo and Carbonite.
Yeah, he's got all these. And so we started talking, and we created this exhibit. And Tony he flew over from France to be at the party Thursday night, and it opened. This morning we went down there, my wife and I, to see what the attendance was like yesterday and today, and they're blowing the doors off of it, because if you're here in town, guys, go see the exhibit. It is gorgeous. All the statues and the storyline behind it. Tony Parker's Heroes and Villains.
David,
and then we're going to have Tony in person.
You should do a little podcast from there.
Yeah, I just might. If Craig said I should probably do a podcast from there, from the exhibit.
We would be happy to get that set up. If we do it in July, Tony will be coming back right after 4th of July. He'll be in town for all of June, July, and August through our show. And so I'm sure we can get him over there to do a podcast with you.
That'd be
That's
awesome.
great. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think David's about to faint.
You can see the trophy right there. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan.
Yeah. He's a first-class individual. You can always tell. I've always said that you can tell how sincere and real people are, that when they have a conversation, no matter who they talk to, is how they look at them, and they're focused on them and they're talking about them. I know we had a movie festival in early December, and we had Ernie Hudson.
Nice.
He's the most popular Ghostbuster in the world. By the way, it's not Dan Aykroyd or Bill Murray. If you talk to all the equivalents Ghostbuster societies like the 501 first, they'll tell you he is the most popular one because he talks to everybody. And I watched him sitting in the booth signing photos and taking pictures, and I would see handicapped kids come up. I'd see 25-year-old men come up, and Ernie looks at him. He talks to him so sincerely, and he Spencer Wilding is the same way. Everybody has told me, he says, I met him once before, and he's fantastic. He talks to me not like a Hollywood celebrity, like, here's your autograph. He talks to him, and so they really liked it a lot.
Yeah, and Bob, it's interesting you say that because I just want to say this. So all of us here were at Celebration. Craig and myself, we got photo ops and autographs with Ewan. So when I didn't know what to expect. I'd only done this with Katie Sackhoff at Comic Palooza in Houston, but when I got into that line for the photo op, I did not know what to expect. I didn't know how Ewan was going to react or behave. We started off with being in line, and then once we got to the curtain, there was about 5 people ahead of me, but we were in that area with Ewan. So I was watching him interact with everyone. And Ewan's interaction with everyone was so genuine, so real. Once it became my turn to go up to him, he totally shocked me. I don't know if this is going to be your experience at the Superhero Car Show and Comic-Con in San Antonio, but this is my experience with him. He immediately went up to me when it was my turn. He shook my hand. He read this shirt. He said, Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Nice. He threw his arm around my shoulder, as you can see here. Here's the photo. And we took the picture, and I was just in shock. I was like, wow. And then he said, thanks so much for coming. And you can kind of tell when celebrities are not into it. You could totally feel that he was appreciative and very genuine. And I was just in total shock. I was over the moon about that encounter. And then not only that, I got his autograph as well. And going through the line, we made swag for the first time. Here's our coin. I presented him with this coin in the autograph line. And I was the only one that presented him with anything at that section of the autograph line. And he stopped signing because he was just signing. So we saw my stuff, and he read it. He said, Star Wars Stuff Podcast. And he said, I know those guys. And he looked up and he saw me again. And he's like, I know you. And he laughed, and they were trying to usher me away. And I was like, I'm having a moment here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to say, man, he's awesome. I mean, his stock in my mind has risen so much from those 2 encounters. And then at the very end, when he mentioned San Antonio on the Celebration live stage, it was incredible. I mean, I thought I was dreaming.
So that was actually funny too, because of when he did come out on stage, and I was actually standing next to David when he did.
Yeah, Colin was right next to me.
And when he did mention San Antonio, the people flipped out, but people at the time were like, wait, there's no convention happening. That must be where the next celebration is. And then everyone started spreading that rumor around. I'm like, no. There is a convention happening there later this year. And they were like, oh, okay. But I could just see the game of telephone just happening through the crowd. I'm like, no, it's just not happening there next year. But yeah,
it's not sacrilegious on your show to talk about Star Trek and Star Wars.
No, not at all.
Okay, so I have to tell you a funny story. in 2018, my wife and I, and we're big Star Trek fans too. We went to the Star Trek convention that Creation Entertainment puts on in Las Vegas. And at 1:45, we had a commitment to have our picture taken with William Shatner on the set of the original series. They had the set there.
Oh, wow.
Of the Bridge of the Enterprise. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're there, and I came down to get in line at about 1:25. I said, I don't know how long the line is, but let's go down there. And because we were in the main convention hall and we were hearing all the speakers, and at 1:35, all of a sudden, all the geeks and guys in line, all of a sudden their phones start blowing up. And they said, Patrick Stewart just walked out on stage unannounced.
Wow.
To talk about the Star Trek Picard series.
Yeah.
My wife left me in her dust. She said, "You stay here and hold the spot." And she ran down there because that's one of her favorite celebrities. So it's interesting how fans, when there are certain celebrities, and I think Ewan is probably in that high regard area.
Yes, for sure. And if you're on the fence about getting tickets for the Superhero Car Show and Comic-Con, sponsored by Thomas J. Henry in San Antonio, don't be. Go get those tickets. I think you're going to have a great experience with Ewan. I mean, he's just one of those guys. You really hope as a Star Wars fan that the actors they employ are fans of the franchise, are really into the work, respect the work. And Ewan totally is one of those people. And I can't wait to meet him in August again. I mean, I'm for sure going to be there.
You going to wear that same shirt?
I might switch it up. I might do a different shirt because if you look at this photo, I mean, you see the background Star Wars Celebration. I might wear a different shirt. I'm not sure if I'll wear an Obi-Wan Kenobi specific shirt. I'm not sure yet on my attire, but for sure, I do want to support you. I want to support the convention.
Wear the shirt. It's free advertising. Come on.
well, we have several different types of shirts, so that's what I was referring to.
Well, you guys really hyped
Tom's
me up.
got one too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you guys are hyping me up. So actually, now I might go, and then you can wear that like a different shirt, and I can wear the Star Wars Stuff podcast shirt. But
there you go. And by the way, when you got to the autograph part, they were doing it really quickly, right?
Right.
I'll tell you something that's very different about our show, and it's something that Stephen Seamus told me. He says, "Look, when you have these megastars and they're paying $240, you cannot treat them like cattle and run through the line and do 200 autographs an hour. So we're only at 125 an hour.
Wow.
So that's why they sold the autographs sold out so fast, because we're cutting it down and we're giving the fans a good experience because our name is more important to us than."
And you know what, Bob, that's exactly how I described it at Celebration. One of my friends hadn't been to a convention before, and we were getting our pictures done. And I said, basically, we're going to go in and out like cattle. I literally described it to them the same way.
Well, pictures are different. You just want to get the great picture. But if people think that, they're signing, they can talk to them. How are you? Or my kids love you. That those things can't happen. We're trying to save some time per person. So when you're looking at it, your photo, the photo booths operate about 6 to 8 seconds per photo, and the autographs is going to be about 20 to 25 seconds. Because for everybody to see them, you cannot pay them mega dollars and think that you can, do 40 autographs an hour. Everybody's going to get a minute and a half to talk to them.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's just math. It's like what scientists say. Everything in the universe, it can be figured out by math.
Yeah, I want to say in that autograph line at Celebration, it was maybe like 3 seconds. I mean, it was so quick, and they had us just moving. They had about 20 people on both sides of him pushing your stuff along, and Ewan had his head down, but once I put my coin and my pin in front of him, he stopped, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And he read it, and then he looked up at me. I think I was the only person he looked up at because I was the only person, I guess, that read the rules that we could give the autograph for something small to take with them. So it worked out, and I have that memory forever now. It's brilliant.
Well, good.
Bob, I think it's just great that you're even considering that stuff. You know what I mean? That you're considering the fans' experience going through that. I mean, because a lot of times it doesn't feel like you guys care or seem like it. So knowing that you're considering that and limiting it, I think that's great for making the whole experience a lot better. And people will remember that, and they'll want to come back to your shows.
Well, you know who taught me? I mean, Stephen reiterated on the autograph side, but you know who taught me the best lesson? Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa was at our first show in November of 2018, and that was basically 6 weeks before his first solo movie, Aquaman, came out. And then he came back with the cast, and yeah, we had Amber Heard there, along with other folks from the cast. That's a story for another day, guys. I'm not sure I can put that stuff out publicly, but she's a strange duck. But there's no such thing as bad publicity in Hollywood. But but if you saw all the photographs that Jason did, Jason connects in an unbelievable manner with everybody. People, they would pose and do all kinds of crazy things, and he would say, "Okay, your husband and wife." He'd get the wife to come and hug around him, and he'd make the husband stand over here, and it was just funny, unique pictures that people that were collectible pictures that and that's the thing with the fans. The experience is just doing something totally unique. I mean, still the number one most requested person that isn't named, RDJ is Jason Momoa.
Wow.
He is also, I'll tell you if you don't know this, and I can tell you this because we broke down the science of who bought our tickets for Jason Momoa. 97% were bought by Hispanic surname women.
Interesting.
He is the celebrity for Hispanics. Now, I'm sure the Diego Lunas and the Michael Peñas of the world, and there's a guy I want to get at a show in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to meet Michael Peña. Yeah.
I also want to get Hugh Jackman. I almost had him. Almost had him.
Man.
I never saw him go to conventions. Would that be his first?
Yeah, he's not done them. He was actually doing for a year, he was doing a Broadway show, and he was over in Houston. And I was going to put a show on a Monday so that I could have him there.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyways.
Let me ask you this, Bob. Could you tell us, who are the top 5 or 10-ish celebrities that people request? I'd be curious. If you know.
Well, right now it's all Star Wars people. They are, there's people that ask for Hamill and Hayden Christensen. But in all genres, I mean, people want to see Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I want to see him.
Yeah, he hasn't done any shows since I think 2017. Henry Cavill, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart. But the problem with Patrick is, his age, he can't sign very much, and they said you'd have to construct a specialty photo booth so that the light can't flash in his eyes from the photography. So, and we're willing to do it. So we're going to. I have a friend that is going to be over in the UK, and he's going to see Patrick. I think it's next week.
Awesome.
Possibility he might do something next year. So I don't know if it'll be with us, but he may do 3 shows next year. So
that'd be awesome. What about Jackson? Come on, man.
Yeah, I know it.
He just won't do
it. You saw the news about Chris Evans Thursday. It was.
I didn't hear anything.
Guys, I'm breaking news to you. So you can look it up. He says here's the only condition I would come back as as Captain America.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
They've got to make a movie that shows him when he went into the past to return all the stones. You would see what happened to him before he came back at the end of Endgame.
Yeah, that's one of the #1 fan requested reasons for him to come back. So
Chris Evans, I tried to get Chris Evans for our show this year, so it's just a lot of filming.
I think that honestly, because of that's something I thought of like directly after Endgame. I was like, this would be like a great show, and then we got Disney Plus, and I was like, okay, and that honestly would be like a great Disney Plus show, and then of course you would have 6 episodes for the 6 Infinity Stones, and now that Chris is doing more than Marvel and things like that, because of now he's doing Lightyear, it's like he's not just Captain America, now he is Buzz Lightyear, so it's like there's like more to it, and there's more actors joining the Star Wars universe all the time. And something I was just thinking about, if you could see any non-Star Wars actor like join Star Wars, like Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. or something, who would you want to see in the Star Wars universe?
Wow.
Yeah.
There's shocking things. Take Guardians of the Galaxy. When they killed off
Yondu.
Yes, thank you. And he's been replaced with Sylvester Stallone.
Right.
Very, very, strange. And if you had asked people who was going to be his successor, for the Scavengers, before you knew of Sylvester Stallone, I guarantee you he wouldn't have been on anybody's list.
True.
But look, he's got a great following. So part of you say, who would you like to see? It really has to do with who's out there. You take Robert Redford being the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have brought him in to the scene to be in that role? But he was awesome in the role.
Yeah, he was terrific in Winter Soldier. And I do got to say too that Chris Evans is a massive Star Wars fan as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the possibility of Chris Evans entering the Star Wars franchise is kind of quite high. I mean, he's got a connection with Kevin Feige as well. He's going to do a Star Wars film where he's going to executive produce as well. And we're not quite sure when that's going to drop. And we're not quite sure when Taika Waititi's film is going to drop either, because news just came out that he's still writing it. Yeah. And they're still talking about ideas. And Disney firmly planted their flag in the ground for December 2023. So it's like, I mean, it's very late in the game now. So are they going to miss that date? It's a big question.
I was reading a article earlier this week or late last week all about the 40 most popular Star Wars actors and their roles in the Star Wars history. And this person was top 15. He was the most popular stormtrooper ever.
James Bond.
That's right, Daniel Craig. Yeah.
More popular than Prince Harry and the 2 princes that didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Anyways, that only happened by the luck that they were both at the same studio over in London, and it was a walkover, and they set him up for that role. And so, yeah. Hey, I'd love to get Daniel Craig.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, he's kind of not working as much since he's not Bond anymore. But I know he's doing the Knives Out franchise with Rian Johnson on Netflix. So,
yeah, I can't bring myself to watch that James Bond movie again, because my eyes watered up for him dying, because to me, I love.
Spoiler alert.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Spoiler alert for James Bond.
Oh, come on!
The movie came out like 4 or 5 months ago, so.
Well, no,
yeah, you know about this, Bob. People
last
write
October,
letters.
November.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah. If they don't know that now, then sorry, they're not moviegoers. And I think all of us kind of have this role that, we are PR agents, our shows and podcasts for the movies, and it is so great to see people back in the movie.
Yeah,
We had Ernie
totally
Hudson.
agree.
Ghostbusters Afterlife was projected to do $75 million. It did $200 million.
It was a great movie.
It's a great movie.
I loved it.
I tried to get the two kids. I tried to get
Finn Wolfhard.
No, tried to get him, but no. McKenna Grace.
Yes, she's from
played
the Dallas
Phoebe,
area.
and then Logan Kim, who plays Podcast.
Yes,
He's great, but they both got picked up to film more movies. And by the way, if you don't know it, you go back and look at the film credits. There's a song in the credits at the end of Afterlife says "Ghost never leaves the haunted house."
Yeah.
But sung by McKenna Grace.
Yeah, she's great. She's so talented.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with that. I was shocked. It was like this, and she was only like 16 at the time, or 17, right?
I think she was 13 when she filmed that.
Was she that young? I was like, wow. And it's a really good song too.
Yeah, I said, hey, come to our show, and the night before when we have Dan and Jim doing the Blues Brother concert, we'll get you to come on stage and you can sing that song before a live audience.
Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, but they didn't think my offer was too amazing.
But the fans would have loved it.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. We had if you're familiar with the seating on that show, we've still got a lot of great seats, but the 300 seats right in front of the stage were sold 2 for $499, but you get a picture right after the concert with Jim and Dan in costume.
That's amazing.
I mean, we see people that get their Chris Evans photo with holding the shield. Wouldn't you like to get him in the concert? Yeah, okay. See those VIP seats there.
Yeah, that's amazing. If you're a Blues Brothers fans, you got to make it to that.
Yeah, it's and Dan is a really, really funny guy. What an amazing career. All the characters he's done. But 2 good franchises that he's been in, both Blues Brothers and Star Wars, Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and I'm a huge SNL fan as well. And he's done podcasts before, and he's a very interesting person outside of all the fandom that he's associated to. So,
is there any chance you could get like Bill Murray, and would it be possible? Is it?
Bill Murray is on my list, but after what happened in the recent filming,
I heard a little bit of details, but there's not much that has come out.
Yeah, there's some things that have shut down a production, and there was some accusation of harassment. I don't know. I mean, I love the guy. I mean, how many times have you watched Groundhog Day in your life, Craig?
Probably 30, 40 times.
I can watch it. I can watch Groundhog Day and Stripes every year my whole life and never be bored of it.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. I just watched Stripes not that long ago, and it's one of those things that he comes on. He's always on TV, and that's like when you're watching it, you're just like, oh, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Well, the fact that they reappeared in that movie, but if anybody hasn't seen Afterlife, you have to make sure you watch the mid scene and the end scene credits, because Ernie Hudson is, you see him there where he goes back to the old firehouse and he's bringing in the Ecto-1. That's kind of what that thing's going to pick up from, and he's going to be the kind of the transitional face going from old Ghostbusters to new Ghostbusters.
Do you
and
think
something else?
Bill and Dan back for that part of that movie too?
Say that again.
Do you think they'll try and bring Bill and Dan in for that one too, even if it's just small roles?
It's possible. I would say Dan Absolutely, because Dan is an executive producer
Oh yeah,
for the movie. I mean, he and Harold Ramis wrote the first one.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's very likely that they're going to come back. That he's going to come back, and we know Ernie's coming back. And wouldn't be surprised if Annie Potts comes back. But I don't know. It's a crapshoot, but it's all going to depend on how well of a role and how much money are they willing to offer him.
I really enjoyed this last Ghostbusters movie. I felt like it just felt like Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like the other Ghostbusters where they had all the new cast. That just didn't feel like a Ghostbusters film to me.
I really enjoyed this one, and I remember seeing it on opening night, and it was the first movie I saw since like the pandemic wasn't as crazy as it was.
Probably The Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yeah. And I remember sitting there, and it was the opening scene and just the crowd's reactions and just everything throughout the movie, and the music in the movie was phenomenal. Because not only, it was like Ghostbusters, but it was like, we are back in the 80s. Like, it's like, this is so great. And I love movies like that. If, me talking like this, I'm going to sound young, but if there was one time period I would live in, it would be in the 80s. Cause I would love to see all of these movies, like these classic pop culture movies coming out, like Goonies, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, all these great movies, and Indiana Jones. Just seeing all these movies in the theater would be phenomenal. And seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife really felt like an 80s movie. So I was sitting there, I was like, I'm kind of getting the experience. But yeah,
Spider-Man No Way Home taught everybody in Hollywood something, and I think that's why Ghostbusters Afterlife outperformed its financials of doing $200 million, and then you see what No Way Home did, over $2 billion. The nostalgic, I mean, bringing back all three Spider-Men,
it was incredible.
Yes,
yeah,
it was incredible,
and it was done so well, and the pardon the expression, with the stink and the fan hatred that people had for Andrew Garfield, said, oh, they didn't like him as a Spider-Man. Now they're talking about they're going to make another Amazing Spider-Man movie with him. Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Yeah. I think Star Wars had that whole experience with the prequels, and then
Hayden got a lot
fast forward
of
10, 15, 20 years later, there's this whole prequel renaissance where there's so much love. And then Ewan talks about it in all of his interviews that he does, that the critics didn't treat it that greatly. But of course, that was when there was no social media. They can connect directly with the fans. And now he's seeing the love, and he's repaying it back with doing Star Wars Celebration, coming to San Antonio to do the superhero car show in Comic-Con in San Antonio.
That's a tongue twister, isn't it, David?
My brain keeps on thinking Celebrity Fan Fest, but I gotta say no, because I was so hyped to go to that show. I was dead set on going to it. And I do have to say to you also on the podcast, it was an extraordinary feat to refund everyone's money. I spent thousands of dollars, and I got the refund so quick. I mean, it goes to show your professionalism and just the organization that you have with your conventions. And I was shocked to get my money back so fast, honestly. But yeah, I just want to tell you that as well.
Yeah, well, we've talked off camera. We've got 6 companies, from ad agencies to PR firms to digital companies and a TV production studio. I've got TV shows on the air all over the state of Texas. It's important that people understand that we do what we're going to do. Now, I'll tell you a couple little things inside the show. There is going to be, thanks to Code Up and Spectrum, there's going to be a retro arcade. All new games, retro old games, but they're going to go in there, and they're 25 cents to play.
Cool.
And then over on the main floor, we've got a walkthrough exhibit It's going to be called Marvelous Machines, and they're all brand new pinballs, Star Wars and Marvel, and and then right in the middle there's a car display. On one side, you'll have Iron Man's car from Iron Man 2. If you remember the scene where Tony Stark is driving in the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they get in the big fight.
Right?
I'm sorry?
That's where he fights Whiplash, right?
Yes. And he chopped the car in half. The funny thing is, so I bought the car from the movie, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful Formula One. It says Stark Racing. That'll be on display there. Nice. And then the other side, a not so popular movie, but it's called Gumball Rally, had John Cena, and he drove a car called the Incinerator. And to get in the car, there's no doors on the side. Think of you're looking at a car, and the car open, like you have on a DeLorean, the doors pop up on the side.
Yeah.
The car splits in half and opens up like this, and Cena would walk up right through the middle. By the way, Cena is one of my top 5 that I'd like to get.
Yeah, I would love to meet John Cena. I've been watching his career too, with a lot of just like waiting for him to kind of explode, a lot like how Chris Pratt exploded with Guardians of the Galaxy. And of course, he had his TV show on HBO Max that has kind of exploded. But you could always kind of tell he was one of those comedic actors that had the chops.
Yeah, he was great in Bumblebee.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great movie too.
That was a great movie, that franchise. So we've got Bumblebee there. I bought the Optimus Prime. It's a 1990 Kenworth truck, so that will be there.
Nice.
I've got
that's the original Optimus Prime, right?
Yes, original Optimus Prime.
Wow.
Love it.
Then we've got 2 13-foot statues of a Bumblebee and Optimus Prime, and then I've got sometimes I've got 51 cars now.
Wow.
Yes.
Dang.
Yes.
So what's one car that you don't have yet, but that you really, really want?
A movie car?
Yeah.
I have them all.
Fair enough. Okay, well,
do I want a Christine? There's a lot of them out there. I'd like to get that Supernatural. I'd like to get, unfortunately, all the craziness that went on about the General Lee. I'd still like to have one because it was, listen, that was the movie. That was the time. It's significant. There's plenty of people who love it. If you pander to everybody who doesn't like something, I remember back when we were doing our show in October of 2019, and we run our own food operations in there, and we had Pizza Hut, and we brought in Chick-fil-A. And I mean, troublemakers from all over the country started saying, I was going to come to your show, but I'm boycotting it now because you have Chick-fil-A because they're bad to the LGBTQ plus community. And I just rallied our followers online saying, because we know how much Chick-fil-A is beloved, in Texas and in the South. And when I see a guy making trouble online and he lives in San Francisco and you do the research and it's all he does is start trouble with people if they do something with Chick-fil-A. And to me, that's not real. He says, I was coming, but I'm not coming to your show because you're having Chick-fil-A there. Really?
Issues like that are just so kind of complex, and social media, it's we've experienced it in the Star Wars fandom, just the negativity that will be spewed, and we like to think that we're kind of an oasis for that. We're a totally positive podcast. We do have our disagreements, of course. Craig, Colin, and we don't really love The Last Jedi, but there's some of the people.
Just don't bring it up.
Come on, man.
Okay, yeah, we can't mention that on the
Why
podcast.
did you not include me in that list? I don't.
Okay, Matt. Okay. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, everyone's from a different background. Everyone grew up differently. I mean, it's just one of those things. And but yeah, I mean, I am super excited about this convention in August. I couldn't be more thrilled. It's felt like I've been in a dream since Star Wars Celebration. Meeting Ewan, knowing that he's going to be in my own backyard, and then of course Rupert Friend is going to be there. Paul Bettany's going to be there. I've never been in close proximity to him. We were at the red carpet premiere with Rupert Friend, and we saw, I believe, all of us here on the podcast. We saw the world premiere, the first 2 episodes at the Anaheim Convention Center with the whole cast. And I gotta say, Bob, thank you so much for being on the show. And I hope to have you back on the podcast and see you soon.
We have some time. We'll figure out to get in there. And after we pick up the additional names and we want to talk about it. And
yeah, for sure. If you get more guests from Star Wars, yeah, it would be wonderful to talk about them. And I know Craig has a lot of experiences with a lot of Star Wars celebrities.
Bob, I gotta tell you, you know what I could see about you that I really like? You're a go-getter. You dream big and you go for it and you try and make big things happen. I could see it.
You know, thank you. Appreciate that. I like to believe that no one else is in control of our future destiny other than ourselves. I was the oldest of 8 kids, grew up in extreme poverty. You know, there was a time when in the early 60s during the Vietnam War, and the economy was terrible. My father got laid off from General Electric. And I mean, my mother took out a Jiffy Pop, you know, the one you pop on the stove.
Yeah.
That's what we had for dinner.
Wow.
And you know, I went to college, got a degree in hotel and restaurant management. I now have the largest advertising and marketing firm in Central South Texas. You know, it's a $55 million company.
Wow.
And I never worked at an ad agency. Figured it out. You know, I tell people the biggest thing you can do is read. Pay attention to what's going on in the world. And you can, you know, I've had an innate ability to understand what consumers want and what they like. I don't like to listen to a lot of other people. Lee Iacocca, he was the famed builder at Chrysler in the 80s. He did the infamous K car at the time. And he had in his book, he wrote about the importance of research. And he says, I don't believe in it. He says, you know, you're at a big corporation. You sit in the president, CEO of the company sits around a table with a board of directors, and they all say they're going to do some research on something. So you go out and you interview and you hire a research company. They go out, do the research. They bring it back. It's 6 to 9 months later. The research is meaningless. It's outdated. You know, you have to, you know, we live in a world that it's constantly changing. And so you not only got to know what's relevant today, you've got to be able to kind of do a forecast and look to the future and what will people like. And, you know, part of the stars, Craig says, who would you bring? You know, if you look at what's going on in the movie business, the movies, that's this nostalgia bringing stuff back. Because if you haven't gone and seen Top Gun Maverick,
loved it.
Love that
phenomenal movie. Phenomenal. And but you know, it kind of bridged 2 generations. You know, because remember all the guys and gals that were at Top Gun, they were much younger than him, and they had to create that bond. It's the same thing. Do you remember the movie? What's the title of it? It was Space Cowboys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood, Tommy Lee Jones. The 4 went back, and there was the young astronauts and these guys. And again, they brought 2 different genres of age disciplines together. It's important. The movie business is challenging because the younger age kids today, they just want to wait until it's on streaming and on TV. And we really got to do something to make sure that doesn't happen, because it's going to be the death of the movie theater industry. And let me tell you something. If you think watching Top Gun on your 50 or 60-inch TV at home would be the same as it was in the theaters,
You're wrong.
pound sand.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
No. Because if I rewatched the original Top Gun and then I went and saw it, and the opening theme, just like they did in the movie and the original, was like, oh, come on, man. Like it just brings everything back. And that's how sequels are supposed to be done. In my opinion, because if there are a way to do sequels that work and really don't work. But Top Gun was a fine example, and including Ghostbusters Afterlife was a fine example of how sequels should be done, where it's not where throwbacks are being forced or anything like that. Because I'm not sure if you've seen it right now, where the new Jurassic World is not getting the best reviews. And
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
It was really, there was not same old stuff, just done in a different place.
Yeah.
I was hoping to go see it tonight. Is it good?
It's a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be the Top Gun, but the animation and the cinematography of where they have all the dinosaurs and all that. But, you know, the reality, Peggy and I, my wife, were talking about this this morning at breakfast, said, in the Italian mountains, could they have built this facility and habitat for all these creatures and then have underground railway systems and all this? God dang, it cost about $100 billion. I don't think it was going to happen.
Well, and that's why we don't put logic into movies sometimes.
I know. You know what that's called, Colin?
What?
In movie making, they teach us in school. It's called suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
You know, can Superman fly?
Yeah.
Do they have these powers?
Yeah.
Suspension of disbelief.
There you go.
But before we go, I have just one question, and maybe you could say, maybe not. Ideally, if you could wake up tomorrow, how many more guests would you try and get for this convention?
Well,
realistically, of course,
because we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And name them because I've talked to you. So I'm hoping one of those two major Star Wars people, we're going to get one of those, and preferably the latter. I would be happier with the latter than the former. You understand what I'm saying? Do you know who I'm referring to?
I think so.
Okay. All right. We'll talk after. And then, you know, then the other person that we mentioned from another genre, but we're going to get some secondary folks, you know, we can tell everybody, you know, what time does this podcast air on Sundays?
So we're live right now, video, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and then the audio portion gets dropped at 5 a.m. Monday morning.
Yeah, on all podcast streaming platforms. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, like all of those.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, if you're up to it, if you'll change your filming, doing this next Sunday to 6 p.m., we'll drop the one person I can't announce until the 20th.
All right. Sounds like a deal. Exclusive on
6
Sunday.
6 p.m. Central Time?
6 p.m. Central Time.
My
All
time.
right.
Our time.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes. Be happy and we'll make that announcement. You'll know how to, we'll know.
Okay.
We'll get things worked out. And if
Okay.
we can get anything else we can delay up until that night, I'll certainly do it. We had, there's another podcast, Rebel Force Radio.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Remember that? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. With that, I think for Colin, Craig, Matt, and Bob, my name is David. May the force
That was
be with
awesome.
you.
And
Bye.
also with you.
Always.